hey, let's keep the sticks moving. We're still on the ground here. We talked about Zeke leading the league, rushing first downs with 78. Lamar Jackson, he was on that list making 70, one of 4 players to do it. Does he reach 70 first downs again in 2020? Do you take the over or the under 70 first downs?
I'm definitely taking the under on this one. I think he kind of, they ran him kind of wild last year, and I think he even admitted himself that he's probably going to run less this year. They got Mark Ingram. They drafted J.K. Dobbins in the second round, so I feel like they're going to, they got the running back stable to take on more of the running back duties. So I think it's only natural to have him have a little bit of a decline in rushing this year because of the crazy numbers he put up last year. I still could see him getting good touchdowns. Obviously he's going to be able to run the ball in the red zone, but I feel like, they're going to lean on those running backs a little more this year. Just to protect him, because he's their prize right now. So
100% agree right there. I'm taking the under on that. All season, they just kept saying, we want to protect him. We want to have him run less, take less hits. It just never, ever happened. He was just on a roll. And obviously, looking back on those highlights, why would you tell the kid to stop? He was amazing. Never seen anything like it. But I think now that with a full off season, they do have this time to implement that. It'd be stupid not to. You got to protect your best asset, especially if he's, not the biggest guy in the field. From his rookie to his sophomore year, all the criticism was, he's going to get hurt. He should run less. But the great thing about Lamar, he listens to those critics, and he put on 15 to 20 pounds of muscle. So he knows, and the offense knows he's going to run anyways. So, but limitations, that's a smart move. You got to protect your best asset, especially when they have that what if story in RG3 sitting in their locker room. They don't want to make that same mistake. He's a great example of that. But Ingram, especially last year, only had an average of 4 more carries than Gus Edwards. So he was already kind of splitting more time. And now, like Paul said, they take arguably the most talented running back in the draft, J.K. Dobbins, who probably ran the option offense better than anyone in college football history, breaking records left and right. For sure they're splitting time, and for sure they're going to split those first downs and touchdowns.
All right. So the under. Look, I take the under, but it's close. I mean, I think it's like basketball, man. When you're a team that lives by the 3 and dies by the 3, the Ravens are going to live by Lamar's legs and die by Lamar's legs. I've seen the Chargers. I've seen the Titans. They cut those legs out. They beat them in the last 2 playoffs. We've seen the Browns and the Chiefs beat them last season. So it's not like they're a team that's been undefeated. They've had some L's. They've had some close games. They dominated too. They had an awesome season, remarkable MVP year for Jackson. But guys, he's gonna run. That's who he is. Even if he's achieving what some think he can achieve as a passer, and that means continuing to develop. And look, he doesn't have to be a pass-first quarterback. He just has to be dangerous enough to be respected through the air. And last year he was. What I would do if I'm all 16 teams that play him in the regular season, 3 or 4 that may have to play him in the playoffs. I watched those 4 games from last year and the previous playoffs with the Chargers. I watched those games, see what they did, emulate it. I mean, make Jackson throw. It's not just a Jackson thing. It's a receiver thing too. Can Mark Andrews do it again? He had 1 year, 1 awesome year. Show me again. Now there's expectations. Now you got to target Hollywood Brown. Were you worth that high pick? So it's not just, make Jackson prove it. Make those dudes prove it too, because I don't see anyone that I'm afraid of on the defensive side of the ball, if I'm being honest. I mean, do you think that's a fair point to kind of look at his weapons around him when I look at the equation of the Ravens offense?
For sure. I mean, Hollywood Brown was actually dealing with a foot injury on and off. He did play through it. But yes, there's a lot of questions out there. Most of his catches were, deep throws, wide open, some blown coverages. But throughout the season, he did tend to get a little bit more polished between the numbers and outside the numbers on those comeback routes. So Still a lot of questions for me. 100%. I had Mark Andrews on my fantasy team too. Got a lot of drops, So without focus on Lamar, is he going to see a lot more pressure? Are they going to be targeting that mesh point with the option? Is he going to have that time to throw? Who knows? But yes, I think they're going to struggle a little bit more. They have, a stacked roster, probably one of the best rosters in the league. But they're playing with fire, running that. It's 95% option offense. That's going to be tough.
Paul, do you buy or sell the Ravens, though?
Yeah, no, I buy. I think they had a crazy year last year. So it's always hard to duplicate that in the NFL. It's hard to be a consistently good team, especially when there's going to be more and more tape, on you and just things like that. But the Ravens got a great O-line too. They had a great draft. I think their weapons are good enough to kind of get them through maybe some early learning curves as far as like defenses trying to adjust to them. But I think another argument could be made with Lamar Jackson. It's like, hey, well, obviously he's a better passer because he's every time he throws it, some guy's wide open, but that's because he's always got that threat of running, and that's never going to change. So I think it's going to be that defenses are going to adjust, but I still think it's going to be very hard for defenses to hold that offense down for too long. So I expect a little bit of regression, but not much as far as their offense goes.
Hold on. Do you buy the Ravens offense long term?
It's a good question.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Do you think it's just a 1 or 2 year thing, or you think it's a fling, or do you think it's a marriage?
It could be. We're going to have to see how Lamar progresses and how defenses change. This is going to be a really telling year because, they had they were very successful last year. So we're going to see how defenses adjust now that there's more tape on them and see what they do. So I think this is kind of a big year for them to decide, like, hey, can this work long term, or is there going to be some question marks? So I honestly don't know right now either.
Drew, are they married to it if they make the playoffs again?
Oh, it's hard to say. The NFL is so good, especially how smart defensive coordinators are and how much film tape there is, even if you're getting it illegally, like the Patriots. But it's like when you face greatness, if you're like the late great Kobe, you know exactly what his hot spots are. You know exactly where he wants to go, but he'll still get there and he'll still kill you. And when you're looking at Lamar Jackson, from what we've seen, we haven't seen anything like that. Maybe Michael Vick, but this guy is just something else. Maybe just a little bit more of juice. And when it's greatness like that, that's hard to stop, man. That you're talking about that 3-cone drill between inches, and you're missing that tackle. That's something that you just can't spend enough hours preparing for. I don't. If I have to pick black and white, yes or no, I'm gonna say no. But that kid Lamar Jackson, man, there's something about him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think he's underrated as his work ethic and his drive. Like, he feeds off all the criticism, and that kid's got some crazy work ethic. So if it doesn't work out, if it does, like, he's gonna go down fighting. So.
Damn, I was just curious. I don't think a lot of people really dive into the Ravens like that, so I don't get to hear what a lot of people think about the Ravens, though. So that's legit right there. Look, you guys know I'm usually off the fence. I'm not really on the fence, dude. If I'm betting, no. No way, long term. No, if you're like Wes, you got to put some money down. Like, nah. But looking at it, like, we watch the games, we watch the film. That's why we're talking about it, dude. I don't know, because sometimes great things happen, and it's something that we think we've seen before. Look, I don't think he's going to be Michael Vick good, even if he is a little bit different from Vick. Not a clear copycat, but, like, man, I'll put it this way. I'm betting against that happening, but I root for each era, each great thing that's happening. Yeah, of course, my team, but I want to say that I'm living in an era that has greatness. I'm watching greatness before my eyes, and that's what it's all about. So I'm not trying to just throw shaderade. I just want to be real about things. I'm not going to jump up on an MVP one time. I'm going to applaud it. I'm going to recognize it, acknowledge it. I'll root for it. I'm not rooting for failure. We've seen it more times than not. It doesn't really result in Super Bowls. That's what it's about. So,
You also got to look at the state of the AFC right now. It's not very good. Like the Patriots are going to go backwards. The Steelers aren't what they used to be. You know, the AFC's wide open. You know, besides the Chiefs, who else could you name that's, you know, that would you say is definitively better than the Ravens? So it's like you got to take that into consideration too.
that's a fair statement. If you buy the Ravens. I buy the Texans, but let's not digress.